Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AAFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point. Here's that story about Harry Reid saying there will be no filibuster. My understanding is that Mitch McConnell's talking to someone that's kind of a D.C. insider this morning, and they were saying, look, Mitch McConnell has a procedure that he can invoke that would require 60 votes to close debate, cloture vote. And that's what we're fighting. We want debate to stay open because we don't want this bill to get to the Democrats in the Senate so they can strip funding for Obamacare or put funding back in there. We don't want that. So we want to keep this. We want to keep the debate open. We want to maintain the filibuster. And that's been our mantra. A vote for cloture is a vote to fund Obamacare. You vote to close debate, to end debate. That means it's going to get in the hands of the Democrats in the Senate who can strip out the provision that defunds Obamacare. Now, this is a piece on the Hill. Harry Reid saying there will be no filibuster. Ted Cruz has not given up. I intend to utilize every procedural means available to prevent Harry Reid from funding Obamacare. Now, Cruz is going to be talking this afternoon, might be in the middle of it as far as we know. He will gain control of the Senate floor and make his case possibly for hours. But according to the Hill, he's not going to be able to prevent a Wednesday vote. Reid says we are going to vote tomorrow under the rules. No one can stop that. And apparently Mitch McConnell could do that, but he's now out there actively trying to sabotage Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and their effort. We want to turn our attention to our decision maker line and welcome a man who's been a guest on this program 2 times before, Steve Lonegan. We interviewed Steve when he first declared to run in the primary, the Republican primary in New Jersey, for the Senate seat that was vacated by the death of Frank Lautenberg. Cory Booker is the Democrat that is running in that race, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. And then we interviewed Steve once again after he won the primary. Glad to welcome him back to Focal Point. Steve, welcome back to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Hey, Brian, it's great to be with you, especially on this pretty important day in this campaign. You know, the first time I was on the radio with you, the polls had Cory Booker with a ridiculous 35-point lead. 2 weeks ago, the polls had this as a 25-point lead, and the big story in the country today and in Washington is today's polling came out as now a 12-point race. Now, to put that in perspective, Brian, and this is the only U.S. Senate race in the nation between now and 2014 Senate races, 9 days out in Massachusetts, Scott Brown was down 15 points and roared to victory. We're 21 days out. We have moved awesome numbers as we expose the failed record of Mayor Cory Booker, who's the Hollywood choice for the U.S. Senate, the liberal Hollywood stand-in for Barack Obama, and we are now within a 12-point, 9-point race of taking this seat. We have the momentum, we have the message, we have the energy, and thanks in part to being on your program, getting national attention to this race.
Well,
my website, I want to get this pitch in there, Lonegan, Lonegan.com.
Lonegan.com if you want to get more information about Steve's campaign against Cory Booker. And Steve, that's the reason I wanted to bring you on, because this is remarkable. Quinnipiac, the pre-primary poll, as you mentioned, had Booker up 54-29, almost 2-1. Now the gap has narrowed to 53-41. And in other words, your support is growing. I mean, from 29% now up to 41%. So people are having an opportunity to hear your message, process your message, and they're liking what they're seeing. They're liking what they're hearing.
Big time. And what's on the ballot on October 16th is Obamacare. This is going to be a referendum vote in the state of New Jersey on the Obama agenda, on Obamacare, on traditional marriage, on the NSA intrusion into our privacy, and the IRS abuse of power, Common Core intrusion into our education. All these things are the issues in this election. A win here in New Jersey for me, for the conservative movement, would be the shot heard around the world. It would re-galvanize the conservative movement, the Tea Party movement. But a win by Booker, who, again, the Hollywood stand-in for Barack Obama, this president will parade around the country as a validation of everything he's doing to this nation. And we just can't let that happen. That's why we have so much energy, so much passion from our base.
Now, Steve, the striking thing to me about your campaign, and I want you to comment on this, is that the standard mantra out there from all the ruling class Republican consultants is you run to the right in the primary and then you tack to the center in the general. You soften your positions, you modify them, you tone them down. But you haven't done that. You have maintained your fiscal conservatism and your social conservatism everywhere you have gone on the campaign trail. And the other sort of advice that consultants, I mean, at least they gave this to those that ran against Obama, you can't attack your opponent. Don't go after him. He's a nice guy. Everybody likes him. You got to leave him alone. And you're getting in the ring and you're trading punches with Cory Booker. So what can conservative Republicans learn about running races even in blue states from your campaign?
Well, a win on October 16th will reestablish the conservative movement and really be a testosterone injection for the Republican Party. The reason I'm sticking to these principles, Brian, is because I care about them. And I want to win on a mandate to reestablish the core conservative principles on which this nation was built, on which our culture is established. Why we are shy about these things is beyond me. The real issue at hand right now is Obamacare. It's failing. It's collapsing around us. And the second part of the equation is my opponent is a complete failure as the mayor of Newark. It's a disgrace. He's let these people down. He's let his state down, and yet he's parading around. My opponent has been in California for the last 10 days, doing fundraisers in San Francisco, last night in Hollywood with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. This is ridiculous. I mean, this guy's parading around California while I'm working hard the old-fashioned way, retail politics, shaking hands, meeting people all over New Jersey. Because I'm going to represent the tax-paying working people of this state and stand up for the values and principles that we've grown up with, and which this nation is built on.
Now,
and why we back off on these things, I don't get it, but I want to reinvent campaigning for the Republican Party.
You know, one of the things, and you mentioned he's got a lot of Hollywood connections, Hollywood money, Hollywood fundraisers, celebrity endorsements, and he tried to draft the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, to come and campaign for him, and you ran him right off. Tell us how you did that.
Well, they were bringing Rahm Emanuel in last Friday. This is amazing. While Booker's out in San Francisco doing a fundraiser at some nightclub, and this is serious, he brings in Rahm Emanuel, the murder capital of the country, to New Jersey, who has the second highest murder rate in Newark, Cory Booker's hometown. So the two murder mayors were going to have this rally, and basically, I announced, you know what? I'm going to be there. I'm going to be right across the street. I'm going to tell Rahm Emanuel to take his failed record of crime enforcement and his murder rates and go back to Chicago. And you know what? They canceled the rally. That's exactly what they did. They realized, like, wait a minute, we're not going to get away with this. You know, Booker's had like 65 murders in Newark this year, 65. Several of them taking place while he's running around California. This guy is making a huge mistake. First, he's a liberal. That's a big mistake. But the other mistake is he's taking voters for granted. This is a real cult of personality. He's spending too much time reading his own press releases and his phony stories. And, you know, we're going to expose this, and we're going to win on the issues.
You know, and Steve, I want to shift gears a second to talk about what's going on Capitol Hill. If you win this race, the election is October 16, you will be sworn in shortly after, so you could wind up being a player in this healthcare debacle, the debt ceiling issue. I want to ask you about that to close our conversation. But one last question. You know, it seems to me, talking here with Steve Lonegan, running against Cory Booker for the Senate seat in New Jersey, it seems to me, Steve, one of the things we learned from your campaign is that a conservative message, if it's articulated and defended without apology, without wavering, that's a message that can sell even in a blue state like New Jersey.
But, Brian, I appreciate what you're saying, but we haven't won yet. We have 21 days to deliver a victory. Yes, we have closed the polls. It is significant. It is a big story. We have the momentum, but we haven't won. A win in New Jersey will reestablish the conservative movement. It'll give people the guts they need to stand up for what they believe in, at least for some time before the pundits get to them again and tell them to, you know, compromise and sell out. But a loss, on the other hand, the liberal establishment and these liberal media will say, see, conservatives can't win. You can't run with that form. You have to moderate. You have to capitulate. That's why this race is even more important. And that's why I need the financial support. I don't have Oprah Winfrey doing a fundraiser with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in Hollywood. I'm raising money from your listeners, from people across the state, a country, 25, 50, 100, 1,000 at a time, whatever it takes. If people go to Lonegan.com, This guy has a lot of money, and it all came out of Hollywood, and it all came out of the Silicon Valley. I'm relying on the grassroots.
One last question, Steve, is if you are able to continue to maintain the momentum, close the gap, and are fortunate enough to win on October 16, tell us how you would vote on this, on the Obamacare issue, the bill that's right now before the U.S. Senate. If you were in the Senate right now, would you vote against cloture? In other words, would you vote with Ted Cruz, with Rand Paul?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Now, what?
The answer is yes. The Obamacare is a disaster. It's getting worse every day. We need to dismantle it. We have to replace it with free market solutions. That means allowing people to buy insurance across the state lines, malpractice, tort reform. We need to give doctors tax credits if they do pro bono work, so we have lots of free clinics sprouting up. There's lots of great solutions, and it's not the Obamacare 27-page bill. That bill is a disaster. So, yeah, I would not vote for cloture. I would be voting with Ted Cruz, with Mike Lee. And unfortunately, for me, one of the downfalls of me saying to this you on the radio stations, a lot of the establishment Republicans say, well, don't support this guy. We don't want another Ted Cruz, in Washington. So it's another reason that I have to work harder to raise money. But you know what, Brian? I'm not going to sell out what I believe in to get elected. I run a small business. I like running businesses. I think it's a noble thing to do. If I can't win on my principles, on my values, with a mandate from voters, then you know what? I'll go out and create jobs. That's what I'll do. But I have every intention of winning. We have phenomenal momentum here, Brian. It's off the chart.
Got just about 30 seconds left. We're going to run out up against the debt ceiling. About the time you would take office, again, if you maintain momentum, close the gap, and win, what would you do as a senator for the debt ceiling? Got about 30 seconds.
I will not vote to raise the debt ceiling. I want to see massive spending cuts before we bankrupt this country. We need to put a stop to the Federal Reserve Bank nonstop printing of cash. The reason they can't taper is they don't know how to stop. They don't know how to stop borrowing. They don't know how to stop spending. I will not vote to raise the debt ceiling, period.
Our guest has been Steve Lonegan, running against Cory Booker for the Senate seat in New Jersey. You can get more information about Steve's campaign by going to Lonegan.com. And don't forget, Steve, if you happen to run into your opponent, let him know that he is perfectly welcome on this program. I'll ask him the same questions that I've asked you. Anyway, God bless you, Steve, and thank you for taking time to talk with us. Steve Lonegan, Lonegan.com, running for Senate in New Jersey. Focal Point, AFR Talk. Be right back.